What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. It's week 17 in this video. Monday night, we have a fun Monday Night Football game coming on in a little bit. Packers hosting the Saints. But we're going to do our normal Monday night post-game notes review of the games from yesterday and Thursday and Saturday as well. We will cover as many of these as possible. And then if you guys do have questions, it's a weird week with the holiday here. I'm not going to be doing live streams tomorrow or Wednesday. So if you guys do have questions on whether it's waivers or start sits or whatever you need, please comment on this video. Hit me up on X, wherever you need to reach me. I will be available to you guys. And let's just hop right into the video here. We have the Chargers versus the Broncos from Thursday night. That was a good Thursday night football game. We had a lot of fantasy numbers that made sense here, starting with Justin Herbert. Looking pretty good here, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran the ball a little bit here. He did have a nice 2-point conversion here at the end of the game as well. Nothing really to learn from the Chargers too much. They remain in their 3 wide receiver set of McConkey, Quentin Johnson, and Joshua Palmer. I mean, DJ Chark had 5 routes. Darius Davis had 5 routes. So that's interesting. With no Will Dissly, Stone Smart was the leading tight end for the second week in a row. He only went 3 for 37, though. He did have a nice game last week. Just wasn't able to get past 6.7 fantasy points. And then the running back rotation. We saw Gus Edwards get up to 14 carries for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. They really held Gus in check until the final drive or two where he popped a couple big plays. But Gus does get the 2 touchdowns, and that's what Gus is, man. He is a touchdown or bust player, and this one getting 2 touchdowns out provided a lot of boom. And then they did kind of split the routes into 3 here. Edwards had 10 routes, Vidal 12 routes, Haskins 9 routes, and then Haskins took a nice little screen to the house here to really steal the game or put the Chargers well ahead. So still a 3-way committee at the running back position. I think if you're starting Chargers running backs, you're going to stick with Gus Edwards. I still like Vidal, but I think, we're in week 17 right now. I'm not going to try and mess around with this backfield. If you want to play Gus, you can play him, but you're banking on a touchdown. And then the receivers here, I think McConkey is the only one that I'm comfortable starting every week. Johnston and Palmer are more like deep flex options. Not much to learn from the Broncos either. Jaleel McLaughlin was out in this one, and they split the running back reps a lot here. Javonte Williams led the way with 33 snaps. Estime got 13 snaps, and then Blake Watson was RB3 with 10 snaps. He did play a little bit as a receiving back too. And then Estime was the primary running back in this one. He led the way with 9 carries, 48 yards, and a touchdown. He looked good doing so, but they really don't trust him to catch the ball or pass protect or do anything as a receiver. So he's kind of like Gus Edwards, honestly. He's a touchdown or bust guy in week 17. I don't feel great about it. It's a good matchup against the Bengals in Cincinnati this weekend, but I don't love it. Javonte Williams continues to get dump-offs here. Not very productive with his touches. 7 for 29 as a receiver, 4 for 24 as a runner was nice. And he's just like a low-end, super low-end RB2 PPR play. And then receivers, you can start Cortland Sutton every week. This was a floor game for him. Devon Vele has maintained his wide receiver 2 status for these guys all year. And then Marvin Mims is the guy that's been trending in the right direction, looking good. So, if you need to throw out a deep wide receiver 3 flex, Vele or Mims, I don't think are terrible options. This is a good offense going up against a bad defense against the Bengals this weekend. And then the tight ends, we just really don't care about it. So the Broncos, man, fun offense, but they just spread the ball out too thin. And it's hard to trust some of the guys that we want to get in our lineups. Chiefs 27, Texans 19, the Saturday game here. Xavier Worthy is starting to look impressive. 7 for 65 and a touchdown. He had 3 carries for 10 yards, a 20-point fantasy game. Looking like a guy that can be relied on and be consistent in fantasy. He's had a nice last month and a half or so. And I think if you have Worthy, you want to try and play him in week 17. DeAndre Hopkins, he was wide receiver 3 on the day in terms of snaps, number 2 in routes. Not a lot of action, 4 for 37, just a floor game for him. I'm not really sure that Hopkins needs to be in our starting lineups for week 17. He's like a low-end flex play for me. Marquise Brown, though, only ran 15 routes, but he was targeted on 8 of them, that's a high number, target per route run. 5 for 45 in his first game back. If I'm ranking Chiefs receivers for next weekend, I'm probably going Worthy, Marquise, and then DeAndre Hopkins as the number 3. So keep an eye on Marquise Brown. Travis Kelce is still in your lineups. He's, maintaining his tight end 1 status here. And then the running back room got a little bit shaken up here. Kareem Hunt led the way with 32 snaps, also led the way with 18 routes run. led the way in carries. He had 11 for 55 and a touchdown. Pacheco just didn't look really good, 9 for 26 on the ground, 1 catch for -1 yard. And Kareem Hunt, who had looked really good all year long, continues to look good. And I'm worried that this is going to be still a 50-50 split heading into week 17, the championship round. So if you have Pacheco, I don't know if I want to play Pacheco. It looks like Kareem Hunt's the goal line back. They trust Kareem Hunt in all situations here. They really phased Carson Steele out in terms of touches. He's still getting a few snaps. And then P. Ryan's still purely, third down kind of mop-up duty. He's not going to get carries, but he's going to get targets. So a three-way committee here. If I have to choose one guy to start next week, it's probably Kareem Hunt. And then Mahomes did look good coming off that ankle injury. So nice to see Mahomes back. The Texans, we lose Tank Dell. Hopefully he comes back strong next year. The dislocated kneecap, and I think he tore something in that knee as well. They brought in Deontay Johnson. I don't think you're starting Deontay Johnson in week 17, but I'll see how aggressive the Texans are, in ramping Deontay up here. They got 2 games to get him ready for the playoffs and see if he can compete for number 2, number 3 receivers. Because after Nico, you got Woods, Hutchinson. I don't know where Mechie is, but it's not a good receiving core after Nico Collins. So there might be some room here for a guy like Mechie or for Deontay Johnson to get some run. I do think if you need a tight end, Dalton Schultz will be the number 2 target in week 17 here, 5 for 45 and a touchdown. You can do worse, I think, if you're streaming tight end. And then Joe Mixon continues to be the guy here. Not too much to learn here from this Texans game. Continue to start Nico Collins and start Joe Mixon. And then, we're not starting CJ Stroud in a 1 QB league right now, especially just down all these weapons. Steelers 17, Ravens 34. Not much to learn here. The Ravens they lost Justice Hill early in this one to concussion. I don't think he's going to play on Wednesday. So Derrick Henry probably ran the most routes and was probably the best snap percentage he's had all year. So Henry looks like a potential league winning back in week 17 here, going up against the Houston Texans. Going to get his touches. He's going to get receptions now that Justice Hill's not in there, and they're probably just going to lean on him a ton. So that's the big note here. No Justice Hill probably for Wednesday. You're starting Mark Andrews. I think they really lean into the 2 tight end stuff in this game just because they're down Deontay Johnson. They're down Nelson Aguilar. I don't know if Aguilar is going to play again. But if Aguilar's out and Justice Hill's out, this is what we're going to be looking at again. So you're starting Zay Flowers. I think Bateman's got some interesting wide receiver 3 upside as he catches touchdowns. That's kind of just what he does lately. And then Mark Andrews definitely catches touchdowns as well as Isaiah Likely. So your Ravens are all looking pretty good here. The Steelers, on the other hand, it's hard to take away anything from this one. Just no George Pickens. But Jaylen Warren dominated this one. 40 snaps to Najee Harris's 17, 26 routes for Warren, only 8 for Najee Harris. There was 1 target for Najee, 5 for Warren. And then Warren actually led the way with carries, 12 for 48, 9 for 42 for Najee, which is not bad. But Warren's starting to separate himself as the year goes on. I think I'm pushing Jaylen Warren ahead of Najee Harris in my rankings for this one against the Chiefs. He's going to be involved as a receiver. I want Najee in my lineups if I have him, but just note that he's touchdown or bust at this point. He's kind of in the Gus Edwards tier for me, where you're going to get 5-6 points if he doesn't score a touchdown. Because I don't know if I see the Steelers playing from a lead and being able to really run the ball here. So not much to learn from the Steelers. You're playing George Pickens because he's going to be back. They already kind of said that. And then I'd play Jaylen Warren. Falcons 34, Giants 7. Not much to learn here. Michael Penix looked okay. 18 for 27, 202 yards. He did throw an interception. Didn't add much with his legs. Not a guy we're going to be using for, week 17, even in the Superflex leagues, but he didn't look terrible. I will say the 1 interception, was a doinker off Kyle Pitts' hands, which we might be done with Kyle Pitts. Dynasty does not look good for Kyle Pitts, so we'll see. Receivers, we do have to watch for Drake London. He has a hamstring or a quad issue. He's got something where we're going to watch for him in his practice participation this week. Otherwise, these guys all hit their floors. London 5 for 59, Mooney 5 for 82. Ray-Ray McCloud running the most snaps and routes is interesting. I guess if London were to miss this game, we're going to talk about Ray-Ray McCloud. So if you're starting Falcons, you're starting Bijan 100%. Keep starting London. I think Mooney's fine as a wide receiver 3 flex. And then if you need a deep flex, Ray-Ray McCloud could be the guy for you. The New York Giants, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Giants, man. They're trying to play for the number 1 pick. It doesn't look good for their next couple games here. But Drew Lock, don't even want to touch him in super flex leagues. Tyrone Tracy continues to play good and make good plays. 16.9 PPR points, 4 for 43 and a touchdown through the air. They just can't run the ball. 7 for 26 is pretty bad. So we're kind of playing with fire if we're going to start Tyrone Tracy one more week here. But I get it. He's got big play upside. He can get these touchdowns for the Giants. So I'm leaning towards Tracy being a top 24 running back in my rankings. We don't care about the Giants tight end, but Malik Neighbors, 14 targets, 7 for 68. That'll fly. That's fine as a wide receiver 3. And then Wan'Dale Robinson also has some deep wide receiver 3 flex appeal. So those are the two guys that I'm okay with starting, as well as Tyrone Tracy. Lions 34, Bears 17. I mean, I don't need to tell you much about the Lions. Like, we're starting, if you have a Lion, you're starting them. Amon-Ra, Jameson, Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs had the smash usage in this one. And then Jared Goff right now, I think he's locked into a top 10 role. So nothing really changed here with David Montgomery out. They just kind of just gave everything to Gibbs. Craig Reynolds did get some touches. Jamar Jefferson got some touches. They're going to kind of use a committee approach here to fill in David Montgomery's touches. But it's all Gibbs all the time. Lions looking like a juggernaut still on offense without David Montgomery. And then the Bears, man. Another good game from Caleb Williams against the Lions. 334 yards, 2 touchdowns, 34 yards on the ground. He did lose a weird fumble. But overall, this is a nice fantasy line. And one, maybe we can expect the Bears to finish the season strong. We know we're not making the playoffs, but there's a lot on the line as far as play coaching and calling things and just ending the season on a good note here. So I do think the Bears can help us in the championship. You're starting DJ Moore. You're starting Keenan Allen. I do think Rome Odunze is more of a wide receiver 3 flex, but at this point, if you have Keenan Allen, you're playing him. And then Cole Kmet, frustrating usage. He runs all the routes. He just doesn't get a lot of targets. He finds the end zone. I'm not going to trust Cole Kmet in my lineups this week. And then you can keep using DeAndre Swift. He's a low-end RB2 play, and I think PPR leagues, they just don't even use Roschon Johnson. So you can use the Bears in week 17 for your fantasy championships. All right, Bengals 24, Browns 6. We got a big game here coming up for the Bengals against the Broncos. So not too much to learn here from Cincinnati. You're playing Chase, you're playing Higgins, and you're playing Chase Brown, and you're playing Joe Burrow. Like, just stick with the simple guys. It was nice to see Yoshivas catch a touchdown, but I really can't recommend starting him in week 17 for your championship. They're using a committee at tight end, and they don't even use a running back too. Herbert got 2 snaps. Chase Brown got 55 snaps. So not much here to learn from the Cincinnati Bengals. And then the Browns going to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, no Nick Chubb, no Cedric Tillman. It looks like Jerome Ford can do it, man. 11 for 92 and a touchdown, 5 for 39 as a receiver, dominated the snaps, dominated the routes. I mean, this is an elite usage here. Yeah, I think we're starting Jerome Ford in week 17. You're starting Njoku. He looked good. He was the best play with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And then, honestly, I'm kind of nervous about Judy. I don't think we have to play Judy in week 17. Don't think we have to play Elijah Moore. I'm sticking with Jerome Ford, sticking with Njoku, and that's pretty much it from Cleveland. And good evening, Sport Dog. We need Love to give me 31 points to win. And, hey, no problem, man. I'm hoping Love can get you your 31. I have one best ball league where I can move up if Jordan Love scores more than 27 points. So I'm hoping for a big Love game, maybe 2 rushing touchdowns, something crazy where he gets up to those 34, 35 points. So we'll see. Love's due for one of those 4-point. He's like, at the end of last year, he was getting 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. You know, all it takes is one of those games. And the Packers passing offense kind of opens up. So not out of the question, man. If he gets you 4 passing touchdowns, that's 16 points right there. You're halfway there. 300 yards, maybe a couple rushing touchdowns. Not rushing touchdowns, but some rushing yards. You could be really close. So let's hope for Jordan Love. Big bonanza game tonight. And I want to say thank you, Sport Dog, for watching and then commenting and being a part of the Fellow Show. We appreciate you, my man. We're going to move on to the Colts and the Titans. And if you guys are new, I've been doing these on Monday nights pretty much all year. And I'm just reviewing. This is an exclusive article on the fantasyfellowship.com. It's my post-game notes. I log the snaps, the routes, and all the fantasy box scores. And then I review them on Mondays. It's a good way to just look and see what happened in the game yesterday and see who's moving up, who's moving down, where the usage is going, and what we need, like the action that we need to take note on. So the Colts, Jonathan Taylor, boss day. If you had Jonathan Taylor yesterday, you won. Like, easy. As far as Colts going forward, like Anthony Richardson looks good as a runner. 7 for 11, 131 yards and a touchdown and a pick as a passer, which is fine. Would like him to see it open up a little bit more, but they just ran the ball so well that they didn't even need to think about throwing the ball. So for the Colts, you're starting JT, you're starting Anthony Richardson, I think. And if you have him in a 1 QB league, you can start him for sure, starting him in a super flex leagues. And then I think Josh Downs remains like the wide receiver 3 flex. Not in love with Pittman, not in love with Adonai Mitchell. Don't really care about the tight end. So the Colts are pretty simple. It's JT, A-Rich, and maybe Downs at receiver. All right, the Titans. It's Tyjae Spears. He's leading the team in snaps, in routes. He's the running back 1 for this team now. He also led the team in carries with 10. Tony Pollard, man, might have just been used a little bit too much this year. He's been missing practices, just hasn't quite been healthy the last month and a half or so. And Tyjae Spears is looking really good now with the ball, getting touchdowns, getting big plays. I'm going to probably rank Tyjae Spears ahead of Tony Pollard next week. And I don't know who the Titans play, but I think if you have Tony Pollard, we can't really trust him in our lineups this week. Mason Rudolph looked fine. If you need him in a super flex league, I think it's okay. Look at Chigoziem Okonkwo. 9 for 81, 11 targets. He's the lead tight end in my waiver wire column. If you guys need a tight end for week 17, it looks like Mason Rudolph really likes Okonkwo, the leading guy in terms of targets, yards, and receptions on the day. And then Mason Rudolph did throw 2 touchdowns, 1 to Ikine, 1 to Calvin Ridley. You can keep starting Calvin Ridley. He's playing fine still. So there's a little bit of hope here. If you need Titans players, you might be able to have a little bit of juice here in week 17. Rams and Jets, really nothing to learn from these two teams. Like, they run their 3 wide receiver sets. They only used 3 receivers in the whole game, Wilson, Adams, and Lazard. Tight end was still Tyler Conklin, 5 for 59 on 7 targets. He's kind of he's a sneaky tight end if you need somebody off the waiver wires. And then Breece Hall, basically most of the touches were his, 14 carries, 6 targets. It's his backfield. I don't know if he's going to play in week 17, but nothing really to learn here. I know Rodgers has 1 more touchdown to get to 500 passing touchdowns in his career. So I'm gonna call Devontae Adams touchdown 500 next weekend. All right, your LA Rams. Not much to learn with these guys either. It's Puka. Cooper Kupp is frustrating. I don't know if you have to play Cooper Kupp in week 17. They are playing the Cardinals, which I like, but not necessarily a must-start player at this point. And then Kieran Williams. Like, if I'm only starting Rams, I want Puka and I want Kieran. Don't care about the tight ends. Blake Corum, we've held on to him all year long. Kieran's still healthy. You can cut Blake Corum this week if you need to get rid of the roster spot. And then Stafford's not really trustable either as a streaming quarterback, barely even a QB2 for Superflex League. So this Rams team, frustrating game against the Jets. They get the win, but making me a little bit nervous on Cooper Kupp. Still play your Puka, still play your Kieran. All right, some fantasy goodness in this one. The Commanders and the Eagles, 36-33. Jaden Daniels just continues to impress us. And I got some questions on Jaden Daniels this week, and I think I told someone to play Kyler Murray, which was still a good play. But the thesis was that Jaden Daniels is a guy that can get you 30 points whenever he plays, and very much so. He goes out and scores 34.42. Terry McLaurin, 17 points. Olamide Zaccheaus, 24. Jamison Crowder out there. Like, there's a lot of guys that they use, and they have a lot of targets going everywhere. So I think the only guy that I can recommend starting outside Jaden Daniels is Terry McLaurin for sure. Even Zach Ertz kind of disappeared in this one. So no tight end I trust for the Commanders. I don't even know if I trust Olamide, Diami Brown, Jamison Crowder. These guys are very hard to trust for me. And then even Brian Robinson, he goes out, fumbles twice, 10 for 24, 2 for 17. I would hope for a bounce back game, but I have a lot of questions with this Commanders offense. If I'm starting Commanders, it's only Terry and Jaden for week 17. We will be watching the health of Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett came in and looked fine. Like, he fed the ball to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Only a few players caught the ball in this game, and it was all A.J. Brown, all Devonta Smith. So you're still going to start these guys even if Kenny Pickett plays. But the Eagles have lost the number 1 seed. They don't have much to play for. They just need to stay ahead of the Commanders at this point. So I think one more win will do it. But we'll see if Jalen Hurts is going to make it. Concussion protocol. We'll see if he can play this week. I'm not going to be super upset if Hurts misses. Obviously, for fantasy, and if I have Hurts, it sucks. But Pickett can, as it looks here, Pickett can still help Saquon Barkley get his touches. He can still help AJ Brown and Devonta Smith get their touches. So big practice reports for Hurts we'll have to watch this week. All right, a fun game here. Panthers 36, Cardinals 30. Bryce Young with the best fantasy game of his career, 5 for 68 as a rusher. He looked okay passing, didn't really have a lot of volume passing, but he threw 2 touchdowns. Chuba Hubbard remains a workhorse running back 1 with Jonathan Brooks out of the picture. He just went nuts in this one, 25 for 152 and 2 touchdowns. He's a must-start player in week 17. And then I think for the receivers, like David Moore running a lot of routes, Jalen Coker running a lot of routes, I can only really trust Adam Thielen, 5 for 43 and a touchdown. So it's just Chuba and Adam Thielen, I think, that are in my lineups this week. If you need a quarterback 2 for Superflex, I suppose Bryce Young, but even then I'm still a little unsure, but he is starting to play a lot better, and maybe he can be trusted in Superflex leagues. Arizona Cardinals, it was the James Conner show, man. He just kept ripping off big run after big run, showing that he's still a top 5, top 10 running back threat. He did get dinged up in this one, so I'll watch his availability in practice this week and see if he can go. No Trey Benson in this one, so they had Michael Carter and DJ Dallas up for the game. Carter did get used a lot as a receiving back. And then Kyler Murray, man, 202 yards, a touchdown, a bad interception, did run for a touchdown, which was nice, but then another fumble. It just seems like it's always something with Kyler Murray where you just can't have all things be good. There's going to be some bad with the good. And this was one of those games. Really bad interception at the end of the game, and it cost them dearly. And then nothing to like. He throws the ball to the running backs in this game, but Trey McBride 3 for 20, Marvin Harrison 4 for 39. Just not a lot of success throwing to his tight ends and his receivers. So I'm concerned for Marvin Harrison Jr. in terms of dynasty. Like, we need to see him evolve because this offense right now is not very good for him. Good for McBride, but we need to get more creative with Marvin Harrison. So a little bit frustrated. If you guys are starting Cardinals, I think you're starting Trey McBride, you're starting James Conner, maybe Marvin. And then, based on your other quarterback options, I think you can still play Kyler as a QB1, but having been eliminated from the playoffs does make me worry just a little bit. All right, Vikings 27, Seahawks 24 is a good game. Nothing really to learn here, though. The Vikings just continue to use their guys. They're just going to run through Jefferson and Addison in the receiving game. Hawkinson's going to be the lead tight end. Aaron Jones is going to be the lead back. Cam Akers is locked into the RB2 role. And Sam Darnold continues to just throw touchdowns. Rinse and repeat, classic Vikings formula here. And then the Seahawks, kind of the same thing. We get Kenneth Walker back in this one, and Zach Charbonnet just kind of gets pushed down. I thought we'd see him used a little bit more since he had been playing well, but only 9 routes, 14 snaps. They used Kenny McIntosh a lot too, which was a little bit of a concern. He had more carries than Charbonnet. So I'm not sure if Charbonnet was dinged up or got hurt or something in this one, but it was all Kenneth Walker, 8 for 31, 8 for 28 as a receiver. So I like that receiving floor. And then the receivers, it's DK Metcalf and JSN. You want those guys in your lineups every week. No, Tyler Lockett's kind of done. I don't trust the tight end, Noah Fant. They use a lot of tight end snaps there. So, and then Geno Smith looks good for Superflex League. The Seahawks are still in this. So I like Geno in Superflex QB2 spot. You're starting Kenneth Walker. You're starting JSN. You're starting DK Metcalf. I think it's pretty locked in for what the Seahawks are trying to do. All right. This game kind of put me to sleep. Bills 24, Patriots 21. This is ugly. You're starting Josh Allen in week 17. You're starting James Cook. Those guys are the locks. But look at this receiver room. Like, they're using Shakir, Hollins, Coleman, and Cooper. All of these guys getting a lot of routes. Knox and Kincaid are splitting routes. I have Ty Johnson listed here as a tight end. I need to get that updated. But they just use too many guys, and it's frustrating because this is what you risk. These are the floor games that you risk when Josh Allen doesn't have an on game. And it's nice to see, James Cook get all the touchdowns in this one and play really well. But nobody else was able to eat except for James Cook. So I think you can try Khalil Shakir next week. I'm not doing Hollins, Coleman, or Cooper, though. Knox still plays a lot, so Kincaid doesn't have a lot of juice at tight end. I think I'd rather play someone else at tight end. It's really only Josh Allen and James Cook and maybe Shakir from the Buffalo Bills. So for fantasy, not very exciting. And then the Patriots, man. Drake May looks good. Like, he's got potential top 10, top 12 quarterback upside next year if they add him some more consistent weapons. The running back split is weird. Antonio Gibson, 43 snaps to Ramondre's 32. They both get double-digit carries. Gibson looks good as a receiving back. Didn't get the touchdown. Ramondre got the touchdown, but they're kind of splitting this almost down the middle, 50-50. Actually, Gibson is the third down back with 23 routes to 14 Ramondre. So I don't feel good about starting either one. If I have to start one, I'm fine with Ramondre, but just note that they are kind of in a weird split. This offense kind of runs around the tight ends. Henry, 4 for 39 in a touchdown. Hooper, 4 for 55. 14 targets to the tight ends. You can start Hunter Henry, I think, in week 17. You can maybe think about Austin Hooper, but just keep note, man, the tight ends is the engine of this passing offense. And then Keyshawn Boot kind of blew up here, 5 for 95 and a touchdown. At this point, Kendrick Bourne, DeMario Douglas, I really don't want to trust Patriots in week 17 in the fantasy championship, guys. So if you have questions, please ask them. I would say maybe Hunter Henry's the only guy I would consider at tight end. All right. Speaking of more teams with players that we don't really want to have, Jacksonville, or the Raiders 19, Jags 14. I'm going to just keep it kind of simple. For next week, you can keep playing Brock Bowers. You can try Jacoby Myers, but he's going to be Jock Boy Myers. I have to update that. But he's a low-end wide receiver 3. I don't really trust him. I trust Brock Bowers. And then Madison and Abdullah. These guys are both low-end RB2 plays. Probably not O'Connell and Superflex. So it's the running backs and Brock Bowers. The Jags, it's Brian Thomas Jr., and that's about it. If you want to play with fire, you can go with ETN or Tank Bigsby and hope for something nice. Mac Jones maybe in the deepest of Superflex leagues here, but it's Brian Thomas Jr. for Jacksonville. And oh my goodness, he looks like a solid round 2 pick next year in fantasy draft. So I'm very, very pumped about BTJ. The Dolphins, without Jalen Waddle, we don't see a lot of success at the receiver position. Tyreek goes 3 for 29 and a touchdown. I'm not messing with Malik Washington or any of the other receivers. You want Jonnu Smith. Like, if you have Jonnu Smith, like, we're just leaving him in as our tight end 1 and forgetting about it. And then Devon Achane was the man. Finally having a good running column, 17 for 120 and a touchdown, 6 for 70 as a receiver. And then Tua, not the best fantasy line, didn't have to do too much, threw the ball efficiently. Didn't make the mistakes in this one, and that's how they beat the 49ers. But for next week, if Waddle plays, I'll play Waddle. You're playing Tyreek, you're playing Achane, you're playing Jonnu Smith, and then you can consider Tua for sure in a super flex league, but maybe not so much a 1 QB league. 49ers, we had a Debo renaissance game here. He's potentially startable next week. You're starting Kittle every week, and Purdy continues to play well and run the ball well. So I think I just got to keep him ranked as a top 10, top 12 QB. Jennings is fine as a low-end wide receiver 3. I don't really trust Ricky Pearsall, but I'm going to keep firing up Kittle. I'll play Jennings. I'll play Debo. I'll play Purdy. And then it does sound like Isaac Guerendo is going to be back this week, so hopefully I don't have to worry about Patrick Taylor again. If Guerendo plays, I'll play Guerendo. And then last night's exciting game, Cowboys 26, Buccaneers 24. Not much to learn here. Rico Dowdle's still the running back 1 here, playing pretty much all the snaps and the routes. Just no room to run. And then Cooper Rush looks good, like 292 and a touchdown, turned the ball over, played good football here. I think CeeDee Lamb's, though, he's the only guy that I want to play on Sunday. CeeDee, like, I don't want to trust Cooks. I don't want to trust Turpin or even Jake Ferguson. 6 for 40 is fine, but he just doesn't really have the boom that I'm looking for. If you need him at tight end, I think it's okay. And then Rico Dowdle maybe as a low-end RB2 play. Cooper Rush for sure in super flex leagues, but if it's not CeeDee Lamb, I think there's a lot of questions on that team. And then Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, man, just continues to do it no matter what the circumstances are. He has another good fantasy outing. Bucky Irving, another great fantasy outing. Rashad White loses the fumble at the end, but they're using both these guys well, where I think Bucky's a low-end RB1, Rashad White a low-end RB2. No Cade Otton in this one, so you see Payne Durham kind of step up. If you need a tight end in emergency pinch, maybe Durham's the guy if Otton misses again. And then a quiet day from Mike Evans, a good game from Jalen McMillan. Those are the only 2 receivers that I think you're seriously starting in fantasy. And then it's the running backs, Bucky, Rashad White, Baker, McMillan, Evans. Start all 5 of those guys against the Carolina Panthers this week. So There's your recap, your post-game notes. We got our Gatch 36 in here. Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you. The Strange Train. Yes. I need to upgrade my tight end. I have Kraft. Should I go get Henry? So next weekend is a big game for Green Bay. They're going to be playing in Minnesota. I just want to look and see what the Vikings allow for tight end points. Because I do like Tucker Kraft. The Vikings ranking 20th here. Not a super awesome team against the tight end here. They allowed Seattle to get some points yesterday. Chicago, nothing. Atlanta, nothing. Arizona, they let Trey McBride eat. Cole Kmet had a big game. Tennessee didn't do much. I think I'm okay with playing Kraft. That's a big game next weekend, so I kind of want to lean into that. I still don't trust Henry a ton. I would probably upgrade to Tucker Kraft. You have Kraft, so we don't need to upgrade to Henry. I'm going to stick with Tucker Kraft. If you have Kraft, I will stick with Kraft, but I'm not going to say no if you want to go with Henry. Substituted Mac Jones for Geno Smith. Now I need 5.4 points from the Packer defense to get to the championship. I think you get there, David. I think you get there. I expect a turnover, if not two, from the Saints offense tonight. I don't expect them to score a ton of points either. Hopefully just a touchdown and a field goal. 10 to 13 points I think is probably most realistic here. And who knows, maybe you get that Packers defensive touchdown tonight, a fumble 6 or a pick 6 or some sacks or something. I'm not going to panic on Trey McBride. It was very frustrating. I have McBride in a couple leagues. I also have Marvin Harrison Jr. in a couple leagues. And the passing offense just didn't work yesterday. So I don't know what the Panthers did specifically to make it so, but I think this is just a blip on the radar. And I would expect McBride to maybe get his first touchdown of the season next week. So I'm not panicking. You have Trey McBride. He got us here. Let's give him one more chance. And if you did advance to the next round, I'm keeping McBride in my lineup. I'm not going to let one game hurt me. But that's going to be it for tonight, guys. Just with the holidays, I'm traveling tomorrow. I'll be back late Wednesday night, but I'm not going to be able to put out a video on Tuesday or Wednesday night. So if you guys do have any fantasy questions, comment on this video or hit me up on X at the fellow KGB. I can respond to your questions there. But I will be back Thursday. If you guys want to hang out Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, we'll be going live at our normal time, and we'll do our start sit before the Thursday night football game. So I just wanted to say thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I hope everybody has a lovely week and enjoy the game tonight. We will see you guys Thursday evening. Adios. Got me feeling icy.